Hi, and welcome back to Frontonio PC Learning for Beginners. In today's video tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create shapes and then assign them a macro and hide and show them uh, through a data validation, which when I selected something from this range here example, select from below here. If I click on this, see, I get this drop-down menu. That is an data validation. So now if I select here button 1 and I get out of it, you see it comes up a shape, and in the cell above it shows me that this is button 1. Now if I change this one to 2 and I press out of it, button 1 disappears and button 2 shows up, and so on. Button 3, button 4, then I show all buttons now. See, we got 4 buttons here, and also I can hide all the buttons. So you might use this one for certain projects you want to do. If you want to show a button, hide a button, and also what we're going to do is we assign to each button then a macro. For example, if I select button 1 and I click on it, see it comes up, shape 1 has been selected. You have selected button 1. I press OK, and so on. Yeah. If I go now on button 2 and I press on it, it says shape 2 selected. You have selected button 2. Okay, so that is an assigning a macro to a shape. Yeah. Okay, now if I clear here the field, yeah, just put a backspace, and see everything disappears. So you don't see nothing. Okay, let me show you how I set up this one. I'm not going to take you through the whole process of setting up the shapes there and whatsoever. I'll make a video about that one on itself. But the way I set this one up is if I select here and column B, there's one hidden column. You see, it starts with B, should start with A. So now if I go here and I do format, no, sorry, and I do tag unhide, see now A1, the column A shows up. This is my selection button, which is practically the field, which is practically a list which I use into making the drop-down list here with validation, data validation. So you can see here what I did is if I press on here, if I press on here, I got the BTN selected, and if I press it, see, that is my list. So, and that's the way you set it up. So like here I made selection button, then I inserted what I want to be in my data validation. I put button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, show all buttons, hide all buttons. I highlight them, yeah, and then when I press into the name box here, then I give them a name. Let me show you here example. Yeah, I make something here. Example is I don't know. Let's do 1, 2. Oops, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Example. Yeah. So now I select this one, and down here in the name boxes, I highlight the name box, and I give a specific name. Let's say numbers. So I put numbers, and I press enter. So now what I created a range name, yeah, a static range name. I have to say this is not a dynamic name range. That's only a static one. And if I press out of it, now it shows me which cell I have, which is A30. But if I go now under here, under this arrow, and I press numbers, you see the numbers are selected. So now let me go up here and let's do this conditional, this data validation. So if I go here and go into data, under data validation, I then make data validation, and under the settings, here, I click on this list down on this drop down menu, and I get a list. Then in the source field, if you press F3, you see you got button select or numbers. So if I put on numbers, which is the last one we did, I press OK, OK, and I press OK again. Now you see I got a drop down list here. So, and it's got number 1, number 2, and so on. Okay, so anyway, let me go up here, data validation. Let me undo this one. Data validation, clear all. Okay, and also here, this range here, let me go here under formulas, name managers, and I got numbers, which I don't need no more, so I just delete this one too, and press OK and close. So now this range here, it doesn't exist no more, and if you go down here, you see I only got button select, which is the part here which we're going to use then in the select from below. So now let me do, let me clear contents here. Okay, so, and then this I don't know why this one is there. Okay, let me do it then here. I got something in here, data validation. Let's go data validation, data validation, data validation, source. Okay, clear all. Okay, so now I only have data validation in here, and that's what this is. So then this column here I can hide, or you can hide, you know, just go press the complete column, right click and hide. So okay, these two also, let's get rid of this one, we don't need it. So okay, that is how I set up this drop down menu in this here. And now when I make a selection, as I showed you before, as soon as I get out of it, something is happening. So it shows me button 1 and the cell above, which is H7. If I click here, if I click on here, you see 7 and H7. So what I did, I reformat this one in a different color, and I let the user know, okay, this is button 1. So, and so on. Okay, now let us go into the developer and see the macros I did to achieve this one. On your tab, on your menu up here, if you don't have the developer like I do, yeah. So if you don't have that one, then go under File, under Options. Under the option, click Customize Ribbon, and then under Customize the ribbon, make sure that developer is checked. Press OK, and then it will. I don't do that because I got it already in there, so I make a cancel, and then you have your developer tab. And then you only have to go click on the onto Visual Basic, or another way you can call up the developer, the Visual Basic interface. You can click, like it says on here, Visual Basic Alt plus F11 opens the Visual Basic. Okay, so anyway, let us go into Visual Basic here. Let me open this one. So, and Okay, the first thing I do, I inserted the module. This is a module. And how you insert a module? Example, you go up here, is there insert user form module or class module. If I go a module, so now I got a new module here, and then if I click on the properties Windows, now the name module 1 came up, and here I can change the name. Let's call this I don't know, let's call this testing 1. Testing 1. Just as an example. Oops. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there cannot be spaces or whatsoever in a module like that. But if I have them without spaces or whatsoever, then you see I got model 1. But also I could use instead underscore. If I put an underscore, it will take it. So make sure that you don't have any spaces in between. Okay, so now good. Okay, but this one here, let me close this one here. This one here, I don't need. So, and I just remove model 1. Do you want to export? No, I don't. So I don't really want. So, and it's gone. Okay, now let's go up to into the module I created, which I gave the name button macros. Yeah, and I start making my macro. A macro always starts with a sub and an end sub. So, for example, if you want to create a new macro, then you do sub, give it the name, and make sure you have the two brackets in there, yeah, and then on the end it will show you a new macro. Let me show you. Let me give you an example here. So if I go up here, it says sub test, and then I do the two brackets there. It comes up with end sub automatically. Okay, we don't need this one. So but all the code needs to be within this, in the sub show, in the sub, and then on the end you have an end sub. Okay, now since I'm creating this this macro out, not on directly on sheet 1, but outside the sheet 1, yeah, then I tell him what he's got to do. So, for example, I start off with a with statement with sheet 1. The reason I'm using sheet 1 is, if let's say example, let me go back here with let me go back here into my normal Excel screen. If I change the name here, say example show buttons, show buttons, yep. So, and I get out of it. Now if I go back into Visual Basic, if I go back in my Visual Basic, you know, you see now here on sheet 1 it says show buttons, but I don't say here with sheet 1 name of the sheet and whatsoever, or with worksheet so and so. I just use sheet 1. The reason is if your user changes the name here on the changes the name on sheet 1 from show buttons to something else, the macro will not work no more. It will say undefined. So, okay. Now let me get on here. So first of all, I hide the buttons. Yeah, that is my initialization for sheet 1. So I do with sheet 1. This one here, as you can see, is in green. Yeah, if you put, because if you put an apostrophe before, then it's a comment. So you know, okay, what I'm doing at the moment. So one important thing also, I almost forgot to tell you, all your shapes, yeah, you have to give them a name. Because let's example, you have like 20 or 30 different shapes. And when you create the shapes, let me show you this one. Let me go down here. When I create a shape, let me go here under Insert, Shapes. It doesn't really matter. Let me just get any shape here. I get a smiley face here. Yeah. So now I make the smiley face. Okay. So you see up here it says smiley face 69. But if I could do duplicate, which gives me another one, is smiley face 70. So if you have a lot of shapes in your workbook or in your worksheet, then it's good if you rename them. And I show you how you can rename these. Let me delete these two here. Control select. Okay, and just press the delete and they're gone. So let me open here, so show all buttons so that you can see. Show all buttons here. Okay, now I got all buttons. You see, if I right click on a button, yeah, you can see here it says shape button 1, and that is a group because I don't have just one shape in there, I have two shapes. I also have the shape here in the middle. Yeah. So if you put something, another image or another shape inside the shape, then make sure you group it and then give it a name. So if I go under picture format here, yeah, and I go under selection pan, you can see here example. See, I got shape BTN 4, okay, which is showing, they're all shown, and BTN 3, BTN 2, BTN 1, and these are the same. These are the names which I inserted in here. Now, but the oval I didn't bother because I don't really care about the oval. So, but if I click the oval now, you see there's another shape. So now I got two shapes. I got two shapes in there. So, and if I uncheck this one, you see it is gone. If I recheck it, it's there. And also this is the original, and so practically that's the original which I made. Yeah, and then the shape 1 is when I selected oh, let me right click this one, right click, control SR, control and press this one too. Now you see I got the two shapes. So then I align them and whatsoever. I put my text in there and then I group them. You see now it says oval 47 has been selected. If I select this one here, oops, sorry. But now if I select this one, it says rectangular corner 46. But if I get out of it and select it now, it gives me shape button 1 because there's been grouped and it's been put all together and give it a proper name. And that's very important because when you use it then afterwards in VBA, if you got a proper name, then it's more easier for you also to program it. Anyway, let me go back here to Visual Basic. So I initialized my worksheet by start hide button. So all the shapes, yeah, the visibility is put on MSO false. You have to initialize it with a dot, since we are not on sheet 1 yet. You initialize it with your dot shapes, enter the shape name, then dot visible equals, or it will come automatically, or is MSO false, or like it is MC down here is MSOC true. And if it's MSOC true, that means it's visible, else it's not visible. So that is when I open the sheet and I got nothing selected in my drop down menu, then the shapes are all invisible, so you cannot see them. So the next thing I do, because that is where I want to have showing up the values which I press, which I select from the drop-down menu. I want the cell above to show in green color and telling me, okay, this is button 1, like you can see in here when I go and select button 1. As soon as I get out of this one, you see button 1, it shows. But then if I select button 2, button 1 and this cell here, it becomes the normal background color, no text in there and nothing, and the button also disappears, as you can see here. Okay, so let's get on there with our VBA code. So the first thing I did, so I set up all the buttons are invisible. The next thing is I set the range, which is H, H7, H7, J7, L7, and N7. That is where I want to change the cell's color and set the same name which is selected from the drop-down menu. So I put them first. I make sure that range H7, the value is nothing. Yeah, the range H7 again, the cell's interior color is the background color which we have in our on our worksheet. To get to this color, I use a RGB color, yeah, and to get to this color, it's pretty easy. Let me get there. Let me get out of here. So let me go here and show you the color here. So if I go under, I select now this cell here, and I go under format cells, yeah. So, and I use the fill color. See, that is the fill color which is down here. And if I go under more colors, yeah, you can see that the RGB value, RGB, like you can say, is for red, green, and blue. And I also got the hex number. But I'm using RGB. So what I do is I just write me down these 3 numbers here. So red is 255, green is 224, and blue is 132. Okay? And I press OK. So we go cancel here, and that is exactly the values which I have here in my cells interior dot color. Yeah, equals RGB, and I give it that number. Then again, the next one, range J7, which is this, which is this one here. Let me get this one up again. J7, the value, I want it to be cleared. If there was any previous value in there, like for example, if I press button 2, you know, in J7 will come up button 2. So I want to make sure that those cells are completely clear and they don't really show up with a green color or whatever color you might choose. And that's that is the initial status which I'm declaring in set range to end setting initial status. Yeah, same like with the buttons, they're all invisible. So now here then I start my main macro. Okay, so my main macro is, as you can see, is pretty long, but it's not very difficult. It's pretty easy. It is nothing else than a if else nested statements what do I mean by if, by nested statements? If function works like that. So if I make if, I need to have a criteria. The criteria is, look at this range here, F9, which is this here. This is F9. If I press on it, you can see F9. So if range F9, yeah, if there is a value in there, example like button 1, then what I wanted to do. So there is the if it's true. Then if it's true, then I want to have cell H7, which is here, yeah, H7, which is here. I want that one to have the value same like in F range, in F9 range. So if I selected button 1, then range H7, the value is going to be same, button 1. Then the range H7, now that is where we give them the color, the green color here, to that cell. So cell interior color, always with a period in front of it. So after you made this, the range H7 equal, then not equals, dot cells, because we are referring to cells, the interior color, which would be the fill color, equals RGB 02550. So why do I know that it's green? Simple. We got red, green, and blue. So if red is to 0, it will not show nothing. If blue is 0, it will show up nothing. But since I set the highest value of the green to 255, the ranges the ranges in the color go from 0 to 255. Actually, there's 256 colors, but why we got 255? Because 0 is counted as a number. So if you for example, so you say, well, why is 255? It's got 256. Well, because 0 counts as a number. Yeah, that's the reason why. If I would put 256 in here, it will not work, because 256, it doesn't exist, because in her program, the number gets counted from 0 to. So and if I include 0 in the 255, then I got 256. Okay, I hope you understood this one. Yeah, so maybe it's like a little bit complicated, but anyway. So then the next thing I did is, now, since here I hit all the buttons because I made them all false, now here, so when that condition is true, then I want the cell H7 be the same value as the range as whatever I selected from the drop-down menu. Then what I want to do is, I want to have the same cell H7 change the color to 2550, to green, and I make the shape button 1 visible to true, because initially it's been set to false, so I will not see it, but now I will see it. So, and now is where it comes the nested statement, the if statements in there. So, as I told you, a if statement, a normal if statement has only got three parameters which it needs. A criteria, which you got, which is F9. And if that value is true, then I want to have something happen. If it's not true, then I want to have something else happen. So, but since in this case it is true, because I selected button 2 or button 1 here, And now I want this one to be true, because this is true. Yeah, that's the reason that when I got nothing selected in here, I cannot see, there's no changes in the sheet. So anyway, so now I'm nesting another if statement into the first if statement. So I put an else, but instead of saying else, if else show me as false, yeah, because else is always for false, then is always for true, and else is always for false. But now I put another if statement into the else, yeah. So into the last request by a if statement. So now I saying if range F9 the value. Oops, I'm sorry, I went one too far. So then if range F9 the value equals button 2, then what I want to happen? Okay, I want to have the previous range, which is 87, I want to put the value to 0. And I also want the range, the same cell, to change to the original color, which we have in our worksheet here. So it can be any color. Okay? And also I want to make sure that the button 1, the shape button 1, is set to false, because I don't want to see it anymore. Then also, you know, we are still in the then I want the range J7, which is the next, is the J7 here, yeah, so J7 here. I want to change that one. I want the J7. The J7 is getting the value of the range F9, of the cell F9. And also I want to have the range J7, the interior color, to be a green. And I want to make sure that the shape button 2 is set to true, because the button 1 is set to false. So now button 2 is going to be visible. Okay? That's the reason why I made all these initial buttons all to invisible, so they cannot see them. So now we're going down to the third button. It's again the same. So I put in again an else statement. Then I say if range F9 again, our drop-down menu, is button 3, then what I want to do, the last values which we set for J7, I want them to be hidden. So I want range J7 value set to 0. There's nothing in there. And the range J7 cells interior color, put it back to the original color which it was. And the shape button 1 and shape button 2, because we had two buttons, I want them to be invisible. Yeah. So then once he cleared me out of this, then what I wanted to do, I want to have in the range L7 the value of button 3, and again the range cell L7 the interior color to green, and the shapes button 3 set to true, so I can see button true. Now we go again into a next else if statement, which is the fourth one. So same procedure. If range F9 value equals button 4, then what we want to do, okay, I want the last ranges here to be all false. So practically range L7 value before it was button 3, now is nothing in there. The color of the cell, which was green, we set it back to its original color. Then I want to make sure that all three buttons, which we called before, that they're all going to be invisible. Yeah. And then when this has happened, then I want range N7, which is where the last button is, which would be here, N7, as you can see. So then I want that to do the same like in the other ones. I want them to have the value of F9, which is button 4, and the color of the cell N7 to be green, and the shape button 4 needs to be true. Yeah, so then, okay, that would be for the first 4 buttons, but we have not only 4 buttons, we don't have four selections for our drop down, we have 6. So now let's go to the 6th one. So practically on the 6th one, it's pretty easy. 6th one and 7th one are pretty easy. So if range F9 value equals show all buttons, then what I want to have? Well, since we said from the beginning, let me go all the way up here again. The oldest ranges here are going to be without value and the background color set all equal. So I don't need to repeat this one here because I know making the selection. The only thing I do is I just want to show something. And what we want to show here, I want to show all the buttons. So then I take all the buttons, button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, and I all set them to MSOC true, which makes it visible. And on the last selection from the drop-down menu, we got hide all buttons. So then I put in else if range F9 the value equals hide all buttons, then all the shapes between from 1 to 4, I want them to be invisible. And that's it. And don't forget to count your and if statements, because you're going to run in an error. It will tell you there's an error. You need and if. So like I did here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and if statements. Because why? Because I have 6 if. If number 1, if number 2, if number 3, if number 4, if number 5, and if number 6. Yeah, so I also have to give them then by the end of all the else nested if statement, and on the end then I have to give each one 1. So this see here, like on the else, there is on the if here, this if here equals this and if. This if here equals and if here. And so on. This if range here equals this one. And so on. Okay? So, okay, now that is, and then, always make sure to save your data. So once you did the macro, just put on the save here, and it saves the data. So in case if something happened, then that you're not going to run into any problem. So the next thing is, now we created this macro and everything. Check your macro if it's working or not. Yeah. Then I have to call this macro somewhere in sheet 1. Yeah, that's the only one, because I don't assign this macro to anywhere. I just assign it to sheet 1. So if I click here on sheet 1, I double click sheet 1, you see now usually comes out as general or whatsoever. You have to select from the drop down menu. You see, or you got general, yeah, or general declaration, or you got worksheet. So make sure you select worksheet. Make sure that you have selection change selected. The reason why selection change. Okay, let me show you here. There's also a change here. You see, so that is something. If something changes, yeah. But here nothing is changing here. What we do is we making a selection. And where do we make our selection? we make our selection here from this drop down menu. So in the drop down menu, so now because the value the change, yeah, because I got a list of six different items in here. So what I do then, I call into the worksheet and selection change, I call that macro which we wrote here in the button macros, which is show hide buttons. Okay, so once this one, let me click again. Why is it not working? Okay, so you see now that is the reason that when the worksheet practically gets is active, yeah, and is looking then for a selection change, like it says here, change by val target as range. So the range here would be the target, and the range is whatever I select from this drop down menu. Okay, so and that's the reason that this one works. Now next thing is we still have a couple of macros here to do, and those are very simple macro. I mean, just magic, but you can make anything you write and then assign it to the shapes. So that's the reason here I have, let me put this one up here so you can see better. Go down here. So you see I have here 4 different, they're almost the same, but there's each sub here, or each macro is assigned a different name. Shape 1, shape 2, shape 3, shape 4. And I'm just asking you to show me a prompt, to show me, okay, I selected something or I did something. But you can assign also other macros to a shape. For example, you have a shape and you want, when you press on the shape, it says save document. So you write a macro, where you're asking, that when I click on that shape or button or whatever, yeah, then what it will do a certain thing. So it will then say, okay, you record a macro like file, save to, and whatever, and then that macro you assign it then to a specific button, yeah. And it's always good also to give your macro a proper name, because if you have like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 different macros, and you just go to macro 1, macro 2, macro 3, macro 4, macro 5, macro 7, then you're never going to find out if there's any error somewhere. Anyway, so that is just a simple macro here, which I'm going to show you how you can assign it to a button. So it's just a simple macro that if I click on button 1, a message box comes up, which you saw already in previously, and which it tells you, oh, you have selected button 1, and I give it a title, shape 1 selected, and so on, shape 2 selected, shape 3 selected, shape 4 selected. Okay, now let me show you how you can assign a macro to this, how you can assign a macro to the shapes. First of all, since we don't see any shapes here, let me show all buttons. Let me get out of here. Now, if I right click on this button here, yeah, on any of them, it doesn't really matter, and then I go here under assign a macro, yeah, and you see I got here, it says but shape button 1 click, which is what it is, but I assigned it the macro number shape 1. On button 2 I assigned the other macro shape 2, shape 3, and shape 4. Okay, so let me get out of here because I got already my macro assigned to them, each of them. So now when I click on the button here, see, shape 1 selected. That was shape 1, and it tells me yes, selected button 1. If I press OK, it goes away. Yeah. If I do the same on button 2, it says shape 2 selected. You have selected button 2. Okay. Let's go on button number 3. You have selected button 3. Shape 3 selected. And so on. Okay, now this will only work once the buttons are visible, because if there are no buttons in there, hide all buttons example, they're gone. I mean, there's nothing here. There's nothing I can click. But if I now select example, let me select here button 2. Okay, button 2 is there. Now if I press on it, it still shows me shape 2 has been selected. You have selected button 2. Okay, now let me clear this one. So, and that is how you can make shapes, assign a macro, and call different values with just with a nested if-else statement. Pretty simple code here. It looks maybe long, but I hope you understood it. Yeah. What I do is, let me open this one, and you know, I leave it here on the screen for a minute or so, and then I'm going to scroll down to see the rest of the macros. So you then can copy down this code, yeah, and try it out. Make something like I did, something similar. But I mean, as you can see, it's pretty easy once you know how this works. Let me go back here again. Let me save it here again for another. Let me go to end with and end sub. So let me see, where were we here? We were practically on if value button 4. Okay, so let me go back here, value button 4 and end with and end sub, so you know exactly we were on value button 4 in the first place. So I keep this one here again for a minute or so, you know, so you can copy them down. But like I said, it's pretty much easy, this macro here. So, and then of course, you know, then there are the last 4 macros, which we, like I showed you, know how you assign it, and you assign them to your shapes, regardless of what shape you have now, as long, what is important is that, like I said, group your shapes, give it a proper name. It makes it easier than having shape number 28, shape number 40, shape number, because the thing is, even if you delete a shape, the shape is still going to be in there. So if you deleted now a shape and you assign something to that shape, it will not work. So make sure you assign them a proper name. That's very important. And also make sure that, now I'm going to go again back to sheet 1 here. Make sure that in sheet 1 you have to select the sheet in here. Make sure select worksheet, and make sure selection change is selected, because we are making a selection change. Now if we wouldn't make a selection change, we must have made some just changes in there, then you, instead of using selection change, then you would use change. But that is for something different. Anyway, so I hope you, let me save this one. Let me close this one, because I don't need it. We don't need it anymore. Let me just double save this one also. Make sure that it's been saved. The section pan here we can close. We don't need that one either. And save again, because I made some changes. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And please don't forget to subscribe, share and like, and please leave me a comments. If there's anything you haven't understood with writing this macro or something like that, please comment me. I'll help out. I'll help you out how to make it. And like I said, thank you very much for watching. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And please, you know, let me know your comments. Thank you very much. Until next time.